September 17th, 2016. A date more important than most of you probably even realize. This single day will go down as one of the most important days in the history of anime. But for most of you, I imagine this day doesn't really jump out at you, so I'm just gonna spoil it with 3 simple words. A silent voice. This is the day that a silent voice released in Japanese theater, cementing itself as the greatest piece of media mankind has ever created. And there is one reason above all others for it being the best. A silent voice, which would go on to win a nice fat bundle of various awards, was always going to be built for success. From the get-go, it packs so much emotion and style inside its 2-hour and 9-minute runtime. The art, animation, music, story, cinematography, thematic presence, and basically any other movie reviewer buzzword you can think of is well represented in Kyoto Animation's finest work. And that's saying a lot because Kyoto Animation is unbelievably good at making anime. Currently, it sits as the 16th highest rated anime of all time, but using the Wayback Machine, we can see it sat as high as the 11th highest rated anime ever, proving that it wasn't just a phase and that it has so far stood the test of time. It even had something of a little rivalry against another medium-defining movie in that of Your Name, since they came out very close to each other, which in turn made fans of both movies fight online over which movie is better. And anytime a movie has a rivalry against one of the highest rated and highest grossing anime movies of all time in that of Your Name, you know that movie must be pretty damn good. Now, I could go on and on for hours covering each of the aspects I just listed in detail and why a silent voice does them better than pretty much any other movie or show. And trust me, I would love to do that. But I'm not here to be the 4,129th review of a silent voice on just YouTube alone. I'm here to tell you what single specific reason pushed a silent voice from being a good movie, no, a great movie, to being the greatest piece of media mankind has ever created. And that reason is this. This simple shape, this half of a beloved children's game, is the greatest artistic choice in the history of cinema and television. Also, yes, I know, technically the credit should go to Yoshitoki Oima, the author of the manga, since she was the one that came up with the idea and Kyoto Animation was just adapting her work. But I will be focusing on the anime for this video. If for some reason you haven't watched A Silent Voice, which to be honest, I don't even know why you'd be watching this video, it's about bullying. But unlike how most shows and movies tackle the subject of bullying by focusing in on the perspective of the victim and the victim alone, A Silent Voice instead looks at the whole picture, which includes the perspective of the victim or victims in this case, as well as the people surrounding the victims, which also in turn includes the bullies themselves. Almost as important as the bullies and bullied viewpoint is that of the bystanders, the people who sat by and either did nothing or unwillingly participated in the bullying. This way of tackling this touchy subject is much more reflective of reality. Instead of just having a character go through bullying and painting the bullies as soulless demon people who have no emotion, A Silent Voice decides to humanize the bullies and paint them as actual people. This also gives the viewers a chance to witness the experience of the bystanders, and how it's not always as simple as standing up and doing what's right. Some characters stand by and watch to dodge any amount of accountability, while others stand by because they fear they might become the subject of the bullying. This choice is an amazing touch since it in turn adds significantly more weight to the actions of everyone involved. The bullying isn't just pure evil, the torment can't be simply labeled and treated, and the damage that is done can have ramifications for years to come. The prime example of this being the main male character, Shoya. Shoya, who is the character we follow the closest throughout this whole story, starts off as just a kid trying to fit in, showing off, acting out, and in general getting into hijinks. Not too untypical for a kid of his age. And that's key because you have to remember they were just kids. Kids who could never know the true extent of the damage that they were doing. Unfortunately, these actions led him to start bullying his new classmate Shoko, the main female character, simply for the fact that she was different from everyone else since she is deaf. The bullying started out as simple name-calling, teasing, but eventually started to lean into the realm of physical torment. These actions of him and his classmates eventually culminate with the school, albeit way too late, screw that teacher, stepping in to choose a villain to pin the blame on. The school didn't care who, they just wanted to put this issue as far behind them as possible. This causes Shoya's classmates, his closest friends, to turn on him and weasel out of any and all accountability. This is hard to grasp for the young mind of Shoya, and we see him start to try and dodge any accountability himself, which is in part due to the fact that he doesn't truly even realize what he and his classmates had been doing. These quote-unquote friends then in turn start to bully Shoya, ostracizing him from the rest of his peers for his previous actions. This shift is abrupt and brutal, and is in place to let the viewer bear witness to the vicious cycle that is bullying. The give and the take of it, oftentimes ending in the destruction and dismantling of a social setting or settings. This exact cycle is what eventually leads Shoya and his mental state down a dark and miserable path. The movie doesn't take the time to walk the viewer through this path, but it doesn't have to. The end is clear as day and the damage is palpable. The long and winding path of ostracization and being shunned by his peers causes Shoya's psyche to put up barriers meant to shield him from those around him, even if any given person being barred from him hasn't slighted him directly. But if they have or haven't slighted him doesn't matter. The barrier is put up regardless. This is sadly all too real for us in real life. Since after being shunned and ostracized like that, it's not too surprising that someone's psyche would put up barriers against those it perceives as a danger. In the world of psychology, this would be known as a defense mechanism. These barriers manifest themselves in the form of X's being plastered across the face of all his peers. When writing the manga, Yoshitoki could have come up with a million different ways to depict this mental barrier within Shoya's psyche, but she settled on something as literal as X's covering the faces of all those around Shoya. This simple artistic choice helps to depict to the viewer as straightforward as possible the ultimate culmination of Shoya's everlasting torment, the inability to look people in the eyes. People take for granted how much emotion and body language is conveyed through one's eyes. The eyes can be the gateway to determining if someone is mad, happy, sad, or really any emotion that we as humans can experience and express. After going through years of this torment at the hands of his peers, whether it's the people doing it on purpose or the bystanders who are just going with the flow, all Shoya can see when he looks out at them is daggers. Daggers that are piercing into the most vulnerable parts of his psyche. He sees judgmental looks, he sees disgust towards him. Hell, he even begins to give voice to these feelings. His defense mechanism's response to this is to just mentally block out any and all glares from his peers by plastering an X over their face. Even though most of them, especially by the time he hits high school, hold no grudge or negative feelings towards him. Hell, since he also began to live his life as an introverted recluse, most of them don't even know who he is or what his past self has even done. This defense mechanism is a very short-term response that in turn causes a much bigger problem with Shoya. Sure, blocking out the eyes and faces of those he might perceive as threats can offer a short-term reprieve to his immediate problem, but in the end it only offers to further close Shoya off from his peers, further cementing himself as an ostracized recluse. This is the sad sad reality of the situation and situations like this in our own world. Oftentimes, our psyche's response leads to further damage being done, and this is something we all deal with in our day-to-day lives. Bullying just happens to be a brutally efficient method of achieving this type of mental damage. So I explained the X's and their significance, but why am I so personally attached to them? Why did they push A Silent Voice from being a good movie to being the single greatest piece of media mankind has ever created? I was subjected to bullying at an early age, not too unsimilar to what Shoyo and Shoko experience within A Silent Voice. Now, I'm not here to compare what my experiences were with bullying to that which can be seen within the movie. But my whole life, I have struggled to look people in the eyes, and even before the bullying, I was always a rather shy individual. So I always just attributed the inability to look people in the eyes to being shy. And now, I'm not completely ruling that out, part of it probably stems from that, but back in 2018, I was recommended to watch A Silent Voice by my fiance. And when I tell you, I have never had a movie grab me and shake me to my core like A Silent Voice did. Now, the bullying in A Silent Voice is beautiful, beautifully painful, but beautiful. It depicts it so vividly, so realistically, and so similarly to what people in our day-to-day lives have experienced. Someone you probably know has experienced that bullying. But never before have I had something like the X's explain something I have struggled with my entire life so plainly, so straightforward to an audience before. I have never seen that before. Many people like me struggle with the ability to look people in the eyes, and you may not think that that's a problem, but think of every single job interview, every single friend you're interacting with, every single family member, every single teacher, every single person you interact with, and instead of looking them in the eyes, you're looking past them. You're looking at their shoulder, you're looking at their hair, you're looking at their feet, you're doing anything you can to not look them in the eyes. It can be painful in certain situations, and in other situations, it can be detrimental, like a job interview. Bullying can have lasting effects that impact you for years to come, even after the bullying ends. I experienced my bullying between the grades of 2nd grade and 6th grade, or for you non-Americans, between the ages of 7 to 12. I am now a 25-year-old man, and I still to this day struggle to look people in the eyes. Now, I have gotten better with it over the years. I have opened up to people about the bullying, and that has helped, especially my fiance. But the effects are still there. The damage is done, and it will probably be with me and be with everyone else who has experienced this for the rest of their lives. So I say, again, A Silent Voice depicts this problem I and so many others deal with in such a way that is so straightforward and plain that it lets audience members who have never experienced something like this in their lives understand the pain that others have gone through. And I love A Silent Voice for that. Thanks for sticking with me through that. It was completely unscripted, and that's the first time I've ever done something like that. Also, if you are currently or have experienced bullying in the past, I implore you to seek someone to open up with. Whether that be a parent, a trusted adult, a friend, a sibling, or whoever it may be, find someone to open up with and to help you heal. A Silent Voice will forever be my favorite piece of media, and my reasons for that are extremely personal. So if you don't like it as much as I do, that's fine. Don't let other people dictate what you do and don't like. If your reasons are extremely personal, who cares? That's quite literally how taste works. Also, if you made it this far in the video, please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing.